Hey guys, it's Evan. It's the week before Thanksgiving 2024, and up in Maine, it is pitch dark at 4:30 or so. You can see the reflection of my room in there, but it's pitch dark. You can't see outside there. But anyways, just to let you guys know where I am in this situation in my room and what's going on, I've really ramped down my feedings at this point. You know, my babies, I was feeding them every 7 days. Maybe I was trying, and now I tapered down to every 10 days, and now I'm going into the 10 to 12 day range. The adults, I'm really tapering down feeding, both in terms of interval and size. And so in terms of our Australian pythons, the antarejas that I'm going to be breeding, the children's pythons I'm going to be breeding this year, we're in full swing. And then with my boa constrictors, we are kind of just getting into the meat of when I'm going to start pairing them and really put some energy into them. And then I'm just working on starting my new litter boas. So what I'm going to show you today at the end is a way to mark your snakes. If you're breeding two snakes, you have to put them together, and they're so similar that it's hard to tell which is which. I'm going to show you a trick on how to mark them. But the first thing I'm going to do is just go around and show you some things that are going on. So over here, you know, these guys are all really ramped down for the winter. But here's this guy's name is Courtney. I produced him here. He's a really aberrant Guyana boa. I named him after a man named Mr. Courtney Gray. He a really wonderful, gentle Canadian person who died of cancer a few years ago, but he was just a wonderful person I knew online, and I had this litter right around the time he was really ill, and so I was talking to him one day, and I said, hey, let's name the boy boa Courtney, because you're a boy named Courtney. So we named it Courtney, and that's who it is, named after and in honor of Mr. Courtney Gray. Rest in peace. He was a wonderful man. Other than that, we have a pair of Bolivian boas. These are on the cusp of being mature enough. I think they are right around 5 years old right now, but I put them together. That's the female, that's the male over the corner. She's been kind of running away from them, but actually today when I first came in, he was on top of her and he had his head up right up on her neck, which is actually a good sign. I think that's one of the signs that they're being receptive. And so then you kind of come over here. I'm not pairing anything over here, but there's Connie. That's Mama Connie. She just had those 15 Guyana boas, and she ate a bunny rabbit yesterday. And so she is doing great. She's wonderful. She's beautiful. I'm not going to stick my hand in there because she's a little ramped up, but she's been hanging out in her little box digesting. And one thing about boas right after they give birth, the female boas, there's this proximal zone where you can feed the snot out of them. Meaning for the first couple of months, what I've noticed and what other people have told me, and it's been confirmed by my experience, is that they fly through food in the first couple of months, meaning that after birth. So typical idea is they give birth, and a day or two after they give birth, I try to feed them, and that's actually a test to see if they're completely done and complication free. So if they feed enthusiastically, a day or two after birth, you can be pretty comfortable that they are complication free. Whereas if they refuse that, you'd be a little bit more concerned and be hypervigilant. These are some of the babies. This one's had 3 meals now. These are all, they are from Connie. But anyways, when you're feeding the mother, what you can kind of do is use Hissy Puffy. But these are all her offspring. You can use to your advantage that little zone of development, or where they are so metabolically active. And by that I mean, for the first couple months after the babies are born, that female will fly through food. And you can see that by offering her a meal. I would not gorge her with hope you can pick up some of the colors in this one. But of course let's see if I can get them over in better light. Of course this never shows up on camera, but there you go. There's some really gorgeous blushing in this one. I don't know if you can see that, but this one's had 1 meal, and that's the color on it. But what you can do is you can feed them, like, not a huge meal. I'm not telling you give them 3 or 4 pound rabbit, but give them like a large rat, a jumbo rat, something like that, every 7 to 10 days. And what you'll see is they digest it, they fly through it, and they pass it as a bowel movement. I have these 2 Argentines together right now. She's hiding. She's been real quiet. I would not be surprised if she's going into a shed, which is actually something that I want to see. Is her going to shed. This will not be the post-ovulation shed, but I'd like to see her go into a shed. That would be a promising sign for me that I have the male in there in the right time and we're coming up on the breeding season. Other things you can see, when they breed, they like to urate a little bit more when they're together. I don't know if you can see on these tubs, but they've been smearing these tubs. I think those are urates. Those aren't sperm, I do not believe. But sometimes you'll also see like little white paint marks on the back of them as well. But I'm rambling. But anyways, with feeding a recently postpartum female boa, use to your advantage that really fast metabolic period for the first couple months after she's had her birth by feeding them something big but not bombing huge every 7 to 10 days. And what you'll see is this is an F1 completely normal ball python. One of the rarest ones out there. Very few of these with no morphs or hets in them. This is an F1 North Carolina corn snake. I just fed him yesterday, so it's quiet. But I'm sorry, I'm squirrel braining it. But when you're feeding that female, go ahead and feed her every 7 to 10 days. And you can tell that she is flying through that food metabolically because that lump will go away quickly. She will digest it. It'll be easy to see the lump when you first feed it. This is my biggest children's python I have. He's almost patternless. And then you will see them pass that food as a bowel movement that is relatively small. So one indicator of whether or not a snake is efficiently utilizing food is how large the bowel movement is relative to the size of the prey item. So if you feed them something relatively large and they poop out a nice consolidated small little poop, they are utilizing all of that nutrients. Whereas if you feed them something large and they poop out a gigantic turd, that's flying through the system without the nutrients being fully extracted. So what you'll see with a postpartum boa is that they will use that food to its fullest every 7 to 10 days. You can feed them every 7 to 10 days like a jumbo rat. I was feeding her XXL rats or like 3/4 to 1 pound rabbits. And in the course of 10 days, she would eat the rabbit. The lump would go away within a couple of days. She would be restful and under the heat for a couple of days. And then she'd pass a bowel movement in about a week. That was a nice small bowel movement. So she's flying through that food. And the way I use that to my advantage in the first couple months is I can get a few extra feed cycles into her quickly and help regain that condition. Oh, I paired this one up here. So it's not something I would continue to do. And the other thing I will tell you is that with reconditioning the boa constrictor, you can put on weight and not put on condition. Meaning that it's not like you can race through and feed her so quickly and use that to your advantage to the point where you can get her to go the next year. Not with true red-tailed boas, usually, I would say. Because you might be able to get her up to weight, but they just won't have that muscle mass and that hardness. My experience has been that if they have a baby and you feed them pretty well, by then next summer, they are probably up to weight, but they are probably not up to condition yet. They don't feel fully girthy. And if you think about it, you can't really bring them back-to-back years anyways, because if they had a baby in October, which is when mine usually do, you only have a couple months for it to repair again. So it's just not really something that's practical with the true red-tailed boas is what I would say. But here's the next thing I will tell you. I'm going to tell you how to mark, an easy way to mark snakes that are very similar if you're going to pair them so you can tell them apart. So this is a female children's python, and she is very similar to her mate. Her mate is down here. And you can see I have marked him with some metallic silver Sharpie. And he is going into a shed, and he is very similar to her. I'd have to look at them very closely for me to be able to tell which was which. And I might have to pop or probe them. So I prefer to mark them. And the way I mark them is just with a silver metallic Sharpie. And I do it this way. I do the boys on the necks. So men are heads and girls are tails. Sorry. Sorry if you think that's crude or not, but that's just how I remember. So boys are heads, men are heads, women are tails. I mark the guy on the neck, and the way I do it is I just pull the water bowl, so I'm gonna do hers because he's in shed. So what I don't want to have happen is not mark her and then have him shed and then have that problem. So what I do is I pull the water bowl so they don't go through it with the wet ink. You only have to leave it out for a couple hours, and then I just write on the tail. And you have to kind of do it. I would say give a couple good marks because it kind of rubs off over time, and they will roll around. See how she's kind of rubbing it off. I just put that lid there so she won't turn around by me, but she will kind of initially try to roll it off in the substrate and stuff. Like, she probably doesn't love it, but it really doesn't bother them in the long term. And so that's just an easy way to mark them. So I pulled the water bottle, see how she's trying to rub it a little bit, but most of it will stay on, so it's okay. But that's just it. And once it dries, it does not bother them at all. I know somebody who does this with hundreds of snakes every year, and they never have problems. So that's just my tip for you at the end of this video, is a way to discern between the different snakes for whatever reason, if you're gonna put them together, is to mark them. And that's how I do it. So you can do it like this for males, or if you have two different ones, you wanna mark them, you can do a number of dots or whatever. So that's just your tip for the day. Have a great day, bye-bye.